Hey everybody, it's Pastors Jen and Jacob, and it's good to be with you again this morning as we start a new week. With our gym closed, I have been doing something that I never do because I don't like doing it. I've been going for runs around the neighborhood. Who wants to run for fun? But I've been going out for runs. But here's something that I've never understood. I can do a short run, a mile or two, but I have never been able to understand people who run marathons. I have the utmost respect for marathon runners. I think it's incredible. I do think it's weird that we have created an entire sport around an event in history where the person who ran the first marathon died at the end of it. And I read this article that after you run a marathon, the tissue of your heart looks like you've had a massive heart attack, but then it recovers. So I've never understood marathons, but we are in an emotional and psychological marathon right now.
Yeah, agreed. Also, not a runner, never been a runner. I had one fraught year in junior high when I was on the cross country team. And if I'm being totally honest, the only reason I did that was because I wanted to have one sport where I could participate in it with my brother, who's 4 years older. So he was on the high school team and I was on the junior high team, and we got to practice together. But it was so tough. I'm not a runner by nature. But like Jacob was saying, I think there are some things that we can think about in this strange marathon that we have found ourselves in. It is clearly not a sprint. This is not a short thing we're going through. And so as we prepare to endure the length of this stay-at-home time, this strange time in our economy and in our society and in our world, I think there are some tips we can get from marathon runners, people who are used to going the distance. So the first thing is that I hear to run a marathon, you have to learn how to conserve your energy. So your heart rate is going to be a lot slower than it would be if you were sprinting, and that's because you have to build up the endurance to go a longer distance. So I find myself slowing down a lot these days and thinking long term rather than just what I have to get done this day, this week. You know, the deadlines are very fluid right now, and so thinking about the ways in which we can conserve our energy and plan long term has been helpful for me.
That's great.
Another thing is that I hear that running marathons are actually in a large part a mental exercise, that you have to prepare yourself and think about crossing the finish line and thinking mentally how you're going to get there, rather than in a sprint. It's a very short amount of time, a very short distance, and so the mental preparation is very different. So that's good to know, that to sustain yourself for a long period of time in something like a marathon, a lot of it is just going through those mental gymnastics and getting yourself in a good place. And I think all of us are kind of working through that right now and figuring out what a good mental state looks like as we're facing a lot of unknowns, a lot of unexpected challenges, a lot of anxiety-producing realities right now.
Yeah. And you can't jump into a marathon and just expect that you're going to run it if you haven't trained. Mm-hmm. And so if you are struggling to get into the marathon routine right now, give yourself a little bit of grace and to know it's going to take some time to figure out how we're going to do this long term and how we're going to address these changes and have a new normal during our quarantine time. So I hope you're allowing yourself to train a little bit and get into that marathon shape.
Yeah. The final thing that I hear from marathon runners is that it requires a totally different muscle group than that of sprinters. And so I think a lot of us, again, are finding right now that we're exercising different muscles than we normally would in our normal routines. And some of that can actually be really rewarding. I know I see a lot of you on social media right now taking on a lot of creative projects, learning to adapt to the challenges and also the joys of working from home. Starting to shed all of the expectations we had of ourselves just a few weeks ago and thinking about a new set of ideas, dreams, and just kind of widening our horizons and widening our plans in a way that can be freeing. So exercising different muscle groups is something that we're all doing right now in this strange marathon.
So 26.2 miles to go. We'll see everybody at the finish line and we'll celebrate together, hopefully, and we'll be in a new state of being when we get there.
Yeah. Thanks for joining us.
Bye-bye.